All right, cool. Hi, everyone. I'm Tang, and I'm here with my fellow ACM Professional Development Director, Anna. And today we're just going to go over how to kind of like build a cover letter. Like as mentioned, we kind of have a smaller group today. So we'll try to get through the slides like not super fast, but we'll go through it at a decent pace. And then of course we'll give you the slides afterwards. And we'd really love to make things kind of interactive at the end. If you guys have like any questions, we can even walk you guys like maybe even one-on-one if the session is still small. But yeah, this is the check-in code is right here, just cover letter. But yeah, let's jump right into it. So just quickly introducing myself, my name is Tang. I'm a fifth-year computer science major. Basically, my last hurrah here at UCSD. I'm one of ACM's professional development directors. So I give a bunch of workshops revolving around cover letters, resumes, LinkedIn, networking, interview prep, all that good stuff. And if you guys have something workshop you guys would like to see kind of in the spring or winter, please feel free to just ping me on Discord or something like that, trying to see what people kind of like want when giving out these types of workshops. A few small orgs I'm involved in beside ACM is Tau Beta Pi, the UCSD incubator, the basement, and Phi Beta Lambda. In terms of my professional experience, I was a past intern at NASA, and I currently work as a product manager at a cool fintech startup called Sezzle. I also founded an app that me and my co-founders just released called YourYear.io. So that's a little plug right there. It's basically a class planner tool. If you guys want to check it out, here's the link right here. A little bit about myself outside of school. I like exercising, hiking, and playing chess.
And hi everyone. So I'm Anna. I'm a second year data science major here at UCSD. I'm also a professional development director for ACM this year. Outside of ACM, I'm also involved in Phi Beta Lambda and the Data Science Student Society. Last summer, I also interned at San Diego Supercomputer Center as a software developer, and I was also an IA for the data science department. And a little bit about some of my hobbies. I really enjoy skiing and snowboarding, traveling literally anywhere, and also playing the violin.
Cool. All right, so in today's agenda, we'll first go over like what the purpose of a cover letter is and like a quick overview. We will then break down kind of the structure on kind of like how it's organized and what you guys should focus on each portion of your cover letter. Go over some general formatting tips and whatnot, and then go over some general tips. And something I did not add right here is at the end, we're going to go over some like 3 cover letters that I've gotten from the internet and a few of my colleagues that actually work to help them get into really top companies. And then once again, as mentioned, we'll take questions at the end. Yeah, passing it back to Anna.
So just to start off, if you don't know what a cover letter is, it's basically a letter to the hiring manager explaining why they should hire you. That's just like a very high level overview of what it is. So how to write a cover letter. Your cover letter should basically tell your story while using your resume as evidence to back it up. So while your resume is kind of very structured and it just gives like a brief description of your qualifications, in your cover letter, you can elaborate more and kind of tailor your experiences more to the position that you're applying for. And a cover letter also shows your persona and your fit for the job to the company. Basically, it creates an impression of you that can tailor to the type of person that the company is currently looking for. So it also shows how you would fit into the company and if you would be a good culture fit.
Awesome. And yeah, just one more thing I wanted to add this to, just kind of like a general, like, I would say norm or conception in the industry is like most people, if you talk to people who apply to a lot of internships, they never really submit a cover letter, especially in the tech industry. Like I remember too, like I've only submitted like 3 or 4 out of probably a couple hundred internships, but then I started doing cover letters. And although it's not required, they're highly recommended though, is because some recruiters are looking for people who actually put out a cover letter because it takes a lot of effort to put into it. Like it may take a lot of upfront effort to create like a really nice resume, but once you get a really good template, the cool thing about CS and software engineering jobs, it's like, for the most part, a lot of the skills for internships and like roles that you do are pretty much the same. So it's kind of like when you have one really good cover letter, you don't even have to change it up that much when you apply to like different jobs. So it's really good just to kind of like spend a lot of time creating the cover letter, and it'll really serve you give you a lot of benefits as you're applying it throughout jobs. But yeah, that's just something I wanted to add as well.
And here is just like a really brief template that you guys can take note of. So I feel like this is just like a really good template for writing a cover letter. So you can have your name on the top. And on the right-hand margin, you would have your contact information, such as your email, your phone number, your address, if you like to put on there, and then the date that you're writing the letter. And then on the right side, right margin, you can have the company information, their name, title, the address of the company. And then moving on, the paragraphs in the middle are just like the meat of your cover letter. Should have an intro. We'll go over the structure later, but intro, body paragraph, and a conclusion, just stating your experiences and how you would be a good fit for the company. And then lastly, you would sign off as you would in a letter and with your name, and just close it off like that.
Awesome. Now I'm going to start diving into how kind of like what Anna just described, breaking it down into the structure of a cover letter. So the first thing is obvious, the introduction. And in the introduction, you kind of just want to like pitch who you are, not like an actual pitch, but just kind of like very high level, what yourself and what your objective is. So this is normally like, hi, my name is Tang. I'm a fourth year computer science student looking for an internship at your company. Just one sentence, doesn't have to be like a very fancy hook or anything. This just wants like when somebody reads your cover, the first like sentence should tell you like why you're writing them the cover letter. I think that's a good way to kind of put it. And as a student, always mention that you're a student too, especially if you're applying to an internship, because I would say companies are normally not, obviously they give more special treatment to students rather than people who like graduated and are experienced. So always mention that you're a student, kind of like in your first line. Yeah. And you kind of want to mention, very briefly kind of mention like why, like what company you're applying to and why you want to do it. So that this is where I would kind of like put it in kind of like a thesis, it's kind of like the last sentence of the introduction would be like, I'm applying to your company because I believe I have the skills to succeed due to like having this, and this skill, so that's kind of like, it's almost kind of like an essay, what I'm talking about, like it's not as long as an essay, but it's almost framed like an essay. You have an introduction, objective, and the why, which is kind of like the thesis of the intro paragraph. Here is an example right here. So this person was writing to somebody who was the hiring manager at Google. They talked about how they just applied to the Google's career sites, why they're applying, and why that company, this person feels that they can make an effective and useful contribution to Google's sales, marketing, and sales operation. As mentioned, you want to keep the initial why pretty brief. So he just says right here, effective and useful contribution to Google's marketing and sales operations. He doesn't really elaborate, right? Because the reason is because you would do that in the body paragraphs.
So moving on to the body paragraphs, this is basically the meat and the big chunk of your cover letter. So make sure to spend a lot of time on it. Basically, your body paragraph should explain what you have to offer basically to the company and why they should hire you. So in the introduction, you're basically giving like a brief pitch of yourself, but in the body paragraphs, you should elaborate on your experiences and like everything that you have that could be useful to the job that you're applying for. Your body paragraph should highlight your resume. So highlight the most relevant experiences to the job and be sure to elaborate more on those and take out some of your other experiences that don't exactly align with the job that you're applying for. And then throughout your body paragraph, you should also elaborate on your skills and what you could bring to the table. These aren't just referring to hard skills. So sure, if you have a lot of technical skills and you're applying to technical positions, you could definitely include those. But even if you don't have any technical skills, you could also highlight some of your soft skills. Those are also really valuable to jobs that like any job in the industry. So make sure that you could also like don't shy away from mentioning soft skills either. And then also make sure to tailor your cover letter to the job you're applying for. This isn't necessary to do for every single job application, but it could definitely help give you the edge over other applicants if it shows that you're like really clearly tailoring your letter to whatever company or whatever position you're applying for. And here is just an example of like body paragraphs you could write. So as you can see, there's like a main topic sentence for each of the two body paragraphs. it pitches yourself in like a brief sentence, and then after that it gives supporting evidence of like your experiences that could like support whatever claim you're trying to make and show how you have these experiences to succeed on the job. Yeah, so in the first one, it says how in past employment and education have helped this candidate like learn all these skills. And then in the second paragraph, it shows a bit of the soft skills and how the candidate is able to is a resilient self-starter and who's able to understand clients' needs. So that could be useful to the company that you're applying for.
Oops, that was on me. Sorry. So yeah, after you kind of elaborate on your experiences, kind of like deep dive into your experience, how they're relevant and how you can kind of like help with the company. Of course, you come back to the conclusion. So in the conclusion, like you would do, as mentioned in like a regular essay or like personal statement, you want to reiterate your main points, kind of like mainly focus on like what we wrote in the introduction, why why this company and why you think you'd be kind of a good fit. So just quickly, like one or two sentences, quickly reiterating kind of like the main points. After that, you want to either suggest next steps and put your contact information. This is almost like a call to action, right? Because it's like, they might be reading it, but like at the end of the day, what do you want the person reading it to do? You can say like, you can say something like, oh yeah, I would really look forward to you reviewing my experiences, and if possible, set up like a call, or like hopefully I can get like a phone screen, something like that. You really want to end it off by making it a call to action to engage. That kind of like engages the reader. It kind of reminds them like what you want to do or what you want them to do. And of course, you would put your contact information. They probably already have it because they most likely have it like your resume, they have your application, but it's good just to put it just in case. And here is an example of the same person that we were kind of showing as an example. So this person kind of just recapped why they wanted to like work for Google, and they're excited to schedule an interview with you so that we can discuss their application in greater detail. That's an example of kind of like a call to action. Very easy, not too pushy. You could say, I look forward to a potential interview so I can discuss my experiences more in depth. And then, of course, thanking them and putting your contact information at the end.
And then moving on to just some general formatting advice. This is really general. It's just some guidelines that you can follow when you're writing a cover letter. So make sure that's only one page. You don't want your cover letter to go over one page because then it just becomes too tedious for the hiring manager to read through, and they don't want to do that. So keep it under one page. And then also have 1-inch margins. Don't have like too little margin space, or else it will look way too cluttered and it wouldn't be a clean read for the hiring manager. And then also have 12 point Times New Roman font. That's just like the standard font. Of course, if you prefer another font, you're welcome to do so. But just make sure that it's like a font that's easy to read and that's like easily just like really clean. And then keep it single spaced. Don't double space your cover letter because that just looks really spaced out and that won't read too well. So just keep it single spaced or 1 point, or like the default formatting that Google Docs has. And then a little bit more about the formatting. So for a cover letter, you should typically have 3 to 5 paragraphs. This isn't a very hard standard, like you have to follow it, but it's definitely helpful to just have 3 to 5 paragraphs. So definitely have one for the introduction, have a few for the body paragraphs, and then have one as a conclusion. And then write your cover letter in your first person because you're writing about yourself. You don't need to be writing in third person because that's just weird. And it's just a general rule of thumb just to write in first person. And then when you submit a cover letter as a part of your application, always make sure to save it in PDF format because it just makes it a lot easier on the recruiter to read, and it's just like a very standard format to put it in. And then also a nice touch or a nice addition to your cover letter is if you're able to directly address the hiring manager by name. So if you know that it's if you know the hiring manager's name, then you could directly address the letter to them instead of just saying a generic "Dear hiring manager." It'll read better and it'll just it would just be really nice to have their name on there if you know it, of course.
So yeah, and then a funny touch on the third point, saving in PDF format. That sounds very trivial, but like I've heard from recruiters and kind of like at my current company helping review applications, some people upload in like doc, you know what I'm talking about, their resume too. So if you do that, it's no shame. You might not have not known, but like always save it in PDF, you know, because especially if you send a Word doc and they open it, it's like it's edible. Like you can they can edit it, you know what I'm talking about, which like it's just really weird. So I know it's kind of funny saving in PDF format seems trivial, but like you'll be surprised. Some people like still kind of like working like doc and like submit it in like a doc, like a Google Docs format. So that's just kind of like why we included this point right here. But yeah, I think
Oh,
this was
okay. Yeah. So,
yeah.
sorry. So, a little bit about just some general pointers to follow when you're writing your cover letter. Like we said earlier, it's not the most important part of your app. Definitely focus on your resume more, but especially for CS jobs, but it could definitely help. A good cover letter can help your application, can make you stand out from the crowd, but don't write a bad one either because that could also hurt your application and just not look good on you as an applicant. So just make sure that you're writing a pretty decent one if you're going to submit one. And also make sure to proofread and tailor your cover letter. This sounds really like trivial, like proofread. Of course, you're going to proofread, but there's often like a lot of typos and mistakes in your cover letter, and that would just like look bad on you as an applicant if you do submit it with like really trivial errors. And also tailor your cover letter if you have the opportunity, if you have the time to do so. But on the other hand, you could also have a general template that you have just listing your experiences and the ones that are most relevant to the jobs that you're looking for. So it's not necessary to like tailor your cover letter to every single company, but if you have a general template, it'll make it easier to just cut and paste like little bits and pieces of it and to like make it a little personalized. And you should also have multiple rounds of edits to your cover letter. Make sure that you're spending time on your cover letter, you're editing, you're asking for advice from your friends, your mentors, whatever. Your cover letter should definitely go through multiple rounds of edits, and you should be sure to spend a lot of time on it. And just some final tips for your cover letter. You should spend time on your cover letter. It's not the most important part of the application, but it will hurt you if it's written really poorly. And you should also update it regularly. So for example, if you have an internship next summer, or if you had an internship last summer, you should be sure to update it in your cover letter so that you could highlight the skills and all the experiences that you've gained through that position. And don't get too attached to your drafts. Like I said earlier, you're going to go through multiple drafts of your cover letter. So you're going to have multiple versions, and you shouldn't be too attached to a single one and think that you'll keep that cover letter for the rest of your applications or something. So just make sure to not get too attached to any like draft that you make. And also ask your peers and your mentors to review it. They're a very valuable asset to you. They could definitely help you. It definitely helps to have a different set of eyes looking at your cover letter, because sometimes you read it over and over again and it just blends into one, and it's just not that you can't spot any errors. But if you have peers or you have other people who are reviewing it, they could spot errors that you may not have spotted while you were going through your cover letter. So make sure to ask for advice from outside sources.
And if you ever need anybody to review, feel free to ping me or Anna on kind of like the Discord, on the ACM Discord. We'd love to help kind of like every time. But yeah, and the other thing too, it's like to the point where it said, I believe, like have a general template. Obviously, if you're applying to one of your dream companies, make sure you really, really try to kind of like make it tailored. Mention like not just the role, but mention more facts about the company, like maybe mention how you relate to some of their values and stuff like that, because it's like it really does help sometimes, you know, especially if you like I said, if you have a good cover letter, it's only going to help your application, you know. So if you're trying to apply to like the FANG companies or whatever your dream company it'd be, whether it be kind of like Albertsons or like Petco or whatever company you're applying to, put in a cover letter if you really, really like that's your dream company. But that's like another small tip that I have. And yeah, I'm gonna now kind of go over a few sample cover letters. and kind of just like walk through them. So if you guys just want to quickly read this over while I commentate, but this is a cover letter from one of me and Anna's kind of like mentors, and she's in the consulting field, but why she has really good credibility is, as you know, UCSD is kind of like a STEM school. We're not really known for kind of like, we don't have like a strong consulting presence. But our friend here, she got basically interviews and offers from like the big four consulting companies, which has like also kind of like the FANG companies has a very, very small chance of getting interviews. She basically got at all of them. So I just kind of wanted to share hers, even though she is in the consulting space. As you can tell from her first paragraph, she starts off with kind of like her name, where she is going to school at UCSD, why she's writing this cover letter to express interest in a certain company too. And she goes into a little bit depth on kind of like elaborating more on how she found the company and why she was like intrigued and wanted to apply there. And at the end of the intro, like I said, kind of like the thesis where she's like, I strongly believe I have the qualifications you're looking for in the intern. And she kind of like recaps it. And then in the next two paragraphs, she kind of like elaborates on it. I like hers in particular because if you notice the second paragraph, it kind of starts off with her laying the groundwork. It's like, I worked through my first case study at 16 years old, and I eagerly chased after my dream of being a management consultant of the highest caliber. I feel like anybody in CS can literally tailor that sentence so you can say like, ever since I worked on my CSC 100 assignment, my data structure assignment, I've chased being a software engineer of the highest caliber. So you can have kind of like a touch like that, and then she gets a little bit more technical on her past experience. As Anna mentioned, you don't have to put everything, but I would highlight kind of like mainly the impact of what the impact of your role was. So let's say you worked on an internship, talk about the high level, like what you achieved during that internship. You don't have to say, oh yeah, I wrote like 20,000 lines of code. Talk about like what you build, how many people you collaborated with, maybe skills you learned as well too. And same typical kind of resume advice, include numbers when you can, just like not even reading fully through it. Kind of like the third paragraph has a lot of numbers, attracts 800 plus attendees, decrease the sale failure rate by 50% and decrease cost by over $200,000. And if you don't know exactly what your impact is, don't be afraid to kind of like ask your manager and stuff like that. Let's say you were kind of on a bigger project where you might not know how like the bigger picture of like what your work entailed. Go ask your manager, say, and you can be straight to be like, I'm just trying to like, I'm trying to kind of like recap my experiences at this internship. I was wondering kind of like what my impact was in terms of numbers, so that's not just for a cover letter tip. That's also a tip for your resume as well too. And then same thing, concluding paragraph kind of recaps everything. And the call to action: would greatly appreciate the chance to discuss my application further by email or phone. So yeah, this is a really good example right here. The next one was a template that I found online, but it came from a very credible kind of like recruiting website. It said that this person wrote it to express interest in Google's software engineering internship program and actually got an interview. So if you guys want to quickly look through this, as you can see, it's almost the same format. Start off with kind of the introduction, talk about like why you applied and why you think you're a good fit for the program. And yeah, if you don't have, let's say, a lot of experience, talk about your academic performance as the person mentioned right here. If you have won any awards like Dean's List, or you got like some type of medal or accolade, definitely put it in. You got like a full, I know there's like the Jacob Scholar, it's kind of like a full ride scholarship. If you got that, put that in. Even if you got like a small little scholarship, put that in if you don't have too much prior experience. This person didn't put in as much numbers, but if you notice in the middle of the third paragraph, they talk about their impact. They say, furthermore, I redesigned a trade validation system to be more scalable and implemented part of it. Once again, highlighting the impact instead of just writing like what he did. Oh yeah, I worked on this, coded with this in this language, make it kind of like highlight the impact and kind of like, if you were to explain your internship or experience in one sentence to like a friend to impress them, whatever you say is what you should put in your cover letter. And yeah, same thing kind of at the end where they recap everything. Same formula. want to go into one more. You guys can kind of see the trend by now, but just wanted to show this was actually from a career coach. And I thought it was a pretty good template as well too. Literally the same thing, intro, body paragraphs, conclusion. Once again, this person puts in numbers in the third paragraph. This resulted in an average of 43% fewer defects and a 32% reduction in days between kickoff and production launch. So yeah, these are some examples right here. Like I said, I'm going to be sharing the slides with you, and we're going to have a recording. So no worries if something kind of like slipped through the cracks. And yeah, Anna provided some templates here that you guys can just work off of, or you can just honestly, I wouldn't say copy somebody's cover letter, but you can like copy the general format, maybe switch out some verbs, switch things around and whatnot, but feel free to use kind of like all the previous examples I showed for kind of like inspiration. But yeah, that's it. That's the content. Like I said, didn't want to just like boggle you guys with a bunch of content, but I'm gonna share it right now. But does anybody have any initial questions? And like I said, since we kind of have a small group, if any of you guys want to like start a cover letter, I'll be here until like we have it from 4 to 5. It looks like we might end early, but I'll be here if any of you guys want advice or anything. But yeah, does anybody have questions, comments, or yeah, would love to open it to you guys. Just feel free to message in the chat or just unmute. Yeah. Cool. Vincent, I noticed you say you have a lot of questions. Was there any you'd like to ask in particular? Oh, sorry, Nick. Completely, I didn't scroll down far enough. I'm so sorry. But I would say if you can include numbers, you should. This is just kind of like that resume tip where it's kind of like you want to include numbers to help stand out and highlight impact. I'd say software engineer is a little more unique where it's kind of like your internship project is like unique. Like at Google, you might have worked on like a validation system. At my internship, I helped create like a user referral program, so they are unique, but if you highlight impact, it really just makes it sound better too. Like you saw that, like I reduced cost by 50%, so you can say something like, oh yeah, I created a validation system. That sounds cool. You know what I'm talking about? You could say, I helped create a validation system that reduced cost by 30% and impacted over 1,000 internal employees. So it's not required, but it'd be good to have. It'd be good to have what you call it, like numbers in your presentation. Yeah, I think if you can still hear me, Tony, everything is good on our end. But yeah, does any other particular questions, anything like that? Cool, go for it, Vincent. I think Anna, you can maybe elaborate on that, and I can maybe add my 2 cents on Vincent's question.